Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you haven't been here, my name is Gina and I'm really happy to have you here. And I would love for you to subscribe and stick around. I make videos about fashion and lifestyle videos as well. And last video I posted was about me unboxing my Louis Vuitton, the Neverfull in the monogram. And a lot of you guys commented on my video asking about my experience selling my luxury items. So I thought it would be a good idea for me to make a video kind of to talk with you about how my experience with selling my bags went. Definitely had my fair and share of dealing with scammers, so I kind of just want to share that with you so you're able to avoid that when you are selling your own luxury items. So without further ado, let's jump into the video. So I do have just a few notes here that I wrote down just to kind of not forget anything that I want to talk about. So the first thing you want to think about when you're selling your bag is, first you want to make sure that you keep all your authentication items. So anything that came with your bag, like for example, any receipt, any authentication forms, anything like that, you want to make sure that you hold on to these because these are going to be a huge factor that will kind of cover your back when a buyer is trying to say that your item that you're selling is actually not authentic. So you're able to kind of use that to cover your bases. So that's the first thing, is just make sure to keep everything, keep the boxes, keep the bags, and keep everything just to make sure that you're able to get the best value and the best experience when you are selling your luxury items. The second thing you want to think about is the outlet that you want to sell your bags or your luxury items on. So there's different outlets that you can use. The first outlet is something like Fashionphile or the ReReal or the Rebag or Tritsy. All these are kind of sites that people go on and buy secondhand items. The only thing with these is they usually tend to lowball you, so you don't expect to get a lot of money out of these sites. You're most likely going to probably get the most or the lowest offers there is because these sites are trying to make profit out of selling your bags. The pros with these sites is that you're able to just sell your bag. You don't have to worry about the hassle of finding a buyer. And also you don't have to worry about the hassle of finding out that you have sold your bag to a scammer. So I can actually share my experience with Rebag as well as Fashionphile because I did try to go through both of them just to see and compare how much each will offer me. But I haven't actually tried with the ReReal, so I can't really give you any details on that. But with the Rebag, I was able to just go online, go through a couple questions, and kind of assess my own opinion of the condition of the bag that I was selling. So they will let you know like what condition you think the bag in. You can say it's either good, fair, or very good or excellent. For my bag, it was very good condition. And then you're able to answer a few questions, and then it will let you know based on you answering those questions how much you will be getting for your bag. So for my bag, I was just selling my Neverfull in the Damier Ebene and the red interior. And they offered me for that bag around $740. And keep in mind, that was 2 months ago. And that was pretty quick. I was able to know right there and then how much I was going to get for my bag estimate. And then I try to go and do the same thing on Fashionphile. However, they do things a little differently on there. So on Fashionphile, you have to go and you have to submit a quote. You take a couple of photos. They will tell you exactly what photos they want you to take, so you basically just follow the instructions and take those photos of your bag. And then you're able to submit a quote, and they'll be able to take 3 business days to evaluate those photos as well as your description to the condition of the bag or the luxury item that you're selling. And they'll be able to get back to you on the price that they want to give you for the bag. And with that, with my experience, it didn't take 3 days. They actually took a week and a half, and I called them and they mentioned that they were just having some delays with their quotes. So with me, it took around a week and a half. And I was very shocked when I got the quote back. They offered me $630, which was lower than the Rebag. So I hear that like other people had different experiences where Fashionphile used to give them a lot more than the Rebag. So honestly, I would recommend you, if you want to try this kind of outlet, to go up and reach out to as many sites as possible and see who's going to offer you the most money. But I ended up not going with either one of them just because I wanted to try and see if I can make a little bit more. The second outlet that you can try and use is on like a secondhand apps. So something like Mercury, Poshmark, Depop, these are all sites, or they're all apps that you're able to go on, post photos of your item that you're selling, and if a buyer buys your item, a chunk of that money that you are making goes to the app, and then the rest goes to you. So I did actually sell my luxury items on both Poshmark and Mercury, so I will go back and kind of explain to you my experiences with both these apps. But just keep in mind, these apps do take fees, and they both differ in the fees that they take. The third outlet that you can take if you do want to make the most money is going to be selling it on your own. So something like going on Facebook and using the marketplace to be able to find the buyer that will buy it from you. So you're basically kind of removing that middleman. So you're able to kind of avoid paying all these fees that other like Mercury takes or Poshmark takes. You're able to remove all of that, and you're just able to kind of just make the most money that way. However, in that case, you're subjecting yourself to more harm, or to kind of maybe get scammed more, because in this case, let's say if the package was to get lost, really it's kind of on you. There's really no one to kind of protect you. Versus going through Mercury or Poshmark, you do have customer service that is able to kind of mediate the situation for you. So something that you can do on Facebook is you can join like a Louis Vuitton. If you're selling a Louis Vuitton bag, for example, you can join a Louis Vuitton kind of a group on Facebook, and it's basically a couple of groups that were able to kind of have a conversation with people that are also love Louis Vuitton or Gucci or whatever item that you do want to sell. You can join their group on Facebook, and they usually will ask you a few questions first before you join, and kind of have you claim that you're not going to be selling any fakes and you're going to be honest. So once you join these groups, you're able to post photos of your item on there, and then if people are interested, they will be commenting, and then you can just reach out to them and kind of facilitate the transaction that way. I personally haven't tried selling on those kind of groups. The only thing is because every time I would post anything on these groups, for some reason I wouldn't really get any interactions, and it just sounded like it was only for people that recycle the leather and make goods on their own, and they just resell them. So it's kind of like a huge outlet for resellers. So yeah, if you do decide to use Facebook, it's all fine. Just make sure you understand that you're kind of taking on the full risk of the transaction. So you just want to be a little bit more cautious with that, just making sure that the buyer is actually legit, and to make sure everything goes through PayPal. So these are kind of like different outlets that you are able to use to be able to sell your luxury items. It's going to be up to your discussion to which item or which way you want to use. But what I have found most success is through apps. So basically Mercury or Poshmark, these apps are the best way for you to be able to reach as many buyers as possible, as well as having a little bit of that control over how much you're actually making from the bag. So I actually used both Poshmark and Mercury, and right off the bat I had much more success and better experiences with Mercury. I didn't have that good of an experience with Poshmark, so I sold my Neverfull on Poshmark first, and at that same time I was also having it posted on Mercury as well, so I was also getting offers on there. But I ended up getting one day a notification saying that the bag was sold. And at that time I was selling it for $1,200, and I was not selling it with the pouch that came with it. So it was such a great deal. I was really happy because, I mean, I was at that time going to be making $970. So the app was going to take $230, and then I was going to make $970. So that was a very significant amount of money to be able to make from the bag, especially that it was a second hand. And I only paid like $1,300 for it. and without the pouch. But to be completely fair, to be able to price the bag at $1,200 while it doesn't have its pouch, as well as if you do put extra $300, you actually are able to buy a whole new one. So my pricing, in my opinion, wasn't really fair. However, it was kind of up to me how much I want to sell it for. So when the buyers just bought it without even negotiating, it was kind of a red flag for me. So I went on the purchase and I clicked on the buyer to be able to kind of get more information on the buyer. And to my shocking, it was the buyer had just recently joined the app. It said the same exact month. It was in February of 2021, and they bought it in February 2021. So it's like that's a very new buyer. Like, it was kind of I don't know, it was kind of a red flag. You don't just go on an app that you just recently joined to pay $1,200 plus shipping for a bag that you don't even know if it was legit or not. So it was kind of just a huge red flag. But the problem with Poshmark is that there's really no way for you to actually talk to the buyer. So I had to go on her actual page and comment on the poster. Just commented on there just to kind of give her a little bit of a brief idea about the condition of the bag, just so she is aware of everything. So whenever I do send it over, there's no differences between what she thinks the condition of the bag is than what it actually is. So I went ahead and I texted her, and she replied back, and she was saying, I'm fine, I'm good, I do think it's a good deal, with flag again. So I took a little bit of time, I reached out to Poshmark, and I was like, hey, like, do you think I should sell the bag? I should send it off? And they were like, it's fine, like, if you don't want to sell it, it's up to your discussion. I went on Facebook as well, too, just to kind of get people's opinion. So I joined a Poshmark group on Facebook, and I posted there the whole situation, and they were saying, oh, that's in guest checkout, these are usually the best, and they were like, just send the bag, it's fine. So to be able to cover my bases, when I was shipping the bag, I decided that I was going to try and protect myself as much as possible, just in case if that buyer was actually a scammer. So what I did is I went ahead and recorded me taking the bag, showing the bag to the camera. And that's tip number one, is to make sure to record and take photos of the bag. As many photos as you possibly can. Of corners, handles, the bottom of the bag, inside the bag, everywhere. You can take photos, take photos. And when you are shipping the bag off, take good videos of the bag. If there is a unique mark or a unique flaw in the bag, show that to the camera to make sure that you are sending, or kind of to show that you are sending the item that you're actually supposed to be sending. So I did that. I took a full video of me showing the bag and also packaging the bag and putting the label on it. And then I had USPS pick that item, or they pick that bag from my home to ship it off. And that was my mistake number one. When you have your USPS or whatever shipping carrier you're using, make sure to have a receipt, and that receipt has a tracking number. So you want to get a proof from the carrier that you have actually dropped that package off. If you don't, and that package gets lost, it's on you. There's really no way for you to actually go up to the app or go up to Poshmark or Mercury to tell them, hey, I dropped the bag off. It is not me anymore. It's the carrier. And that was my mistake number one. I did not get a receipt. And just because I'm lucky, the bag was never tracking. It was a week after I have already shipped it. It's already with USPS. And the tracking still says that I haven't shipped it yet, because it hasn't been scanned by USPS yet. And I was losing it because I was scared. I was like, did they lose it? Did they lose the package? And I was thinking to myself, I was like, well, if I go reach out to Poshmark and let them know, the first thing they're going to ask me is where the receipt is to prove that you actually dropped it off. And I didn't have that. So I knew I was going to kind of out of luck. if that package was lost, I'm done. And a week and a half goes by, and I started reaching out to USPS, trying to find out where the package is, and I finally found it. They took forever to scan it in, and they finally scanned it, and it was after a week and a half. And I was kind of keeping communication with the buyer as well too on the app by just commenting on her listing, just to make sure that she is aware that I have already sent it off. Please don't cancel the order because it's already on the way to you. And the way it works with Poshmark is when you're selling anything at more than $500, it goes from the seller's house over to the headquarters for Poshmark, and there they're able to authenticate the item before they ship it off to the seller. So the bag went from my house over to Poshmark headquarters in California, and I'm on the East Coast. So that took a couple days, and then when it finally got there, they took about 3 to 4 days to be able to authenticate it. So during this time, I'm waiting on them to give me the green light and say that they have already shipped it to the seller or to the buyer. And I get the disappointing email saying that it was canceled, and that Poshmark had canceled the order because they could not verify the buyer's payment. Red flag. And that's when I knew I should have trusted my gut and that the buyer wasn't actually trustworthy, just because of the idea. Like, I had a feeling that it was not a good buyer. And they basically said that they were going to ship the bag off to me. And I was very furious and I was frustrated because I had wasted all that time, all these resources, and I have really buyers that were really interested in the bag on Mercury, but I didn't because I thought this was a better deal. So that kind of gets me to the next point where if it's a good to be true, it's too good to be true. So just keep an eye out, make sure your buyers are actually legit. And there are so many ways you can do about that. So from now on, I want to make sure that the buyer is actually verified, and they can do that through the app. So on Mercury, they can verify themselves through their license, by verifying their emails. They can do that through so many ways. So make sure that you are comfortable with the buyer, that you know the buyer, that the buyer has enough reviews on there just to make sure that the buyer is actually legit. And during that time when I knew the item was canceled and it was on the way back to me, I wanted to find another buyer as soon as possible. And at that time I had someone that was already interested, but I told them that I had already sold it. And it was on the Mercury app, not on Poshmark. At that time I was already frustrated with Poshmark and I didn't want to deal with it at all. So I was trying to sell it on Mercury now. And I talked to the girl and I told her, hey, there was a cancellation, do you still want the bag? And she said yes. We went over the condition of the bag and she knew everything, and then she decided that she's going to go ahead and purchase it. But I told her the bag was not with me. I'm just waiting on Poshmark to send that bag to me so I'm able to ship it back to you. And she was fine. And then it comes the day of the delivery, I got the bag back and I look at the bag and the handles are peeling. I don't remember the handles peeling. If they were, I would have remembered. It was the bag, everything was good, everything came, it's just the handles were peeling. So I contacted Poshmark and I told them, hey, like, the condition of the bag that I got was not the original condition that I sent it off with. And then they basically said, it's your own issue, it's your own problem, this is how we got it, deal with it. And that was also something else that kind of turned me off from Poshmark and made me not want to deal with them anymore, because they didn't try and kind of go through, like, is it actually legit? Like, did they actually damage the item at their headquarters? But they didn't even try and attempt to do so. So their customer service wasn't really helpful in that case. But as a common decency for me is that I went ahead and I took photos of that flaw and I sent it off to the new buyer on Mercury side. And she got annoyed, she got mad, she didn't want the bag anymore, so she canceled. So now, so far, 2 attempts to sell the bag, and both went bad. So I went back and I went ahead and I updated the listing on Mercury to update with the new flaws, so people when they buy them, that doesn't happen again. But at that time I was frustrated because the bag is more damaged. That means I'm gonna get less money for it, and now I have to find a third buyer to buy the bag, and it was just kind of a waste of money. And at that time I really wanted to use the money to buy the new Neverfull. And I was finally able to get another buyer. It was like a couple days afterwards. She bought the bag. I put it at a really more reasonable price, and she bought it, and she was also new to Mercury app. And the good thing about Mercury app is that you're actually able to go ahead and text them, like have a one-on-one conversation with them, versus Poshmark you're really not able to do that. So that's one good thing about Mercury that I don't really like about Poshmark. With Mercury you're actually able to actually talk with the buyer and figure it out with them. And you're able to also take screenshots of the conversation just to make sure if there is any miscommunication happen, that you're able to go back and be like reference and say, hey, like I've already let you know that was the condition. So you kind of cover your bases that way. But I actually texted her and I kind of told her like I already dealt with a lot of scammers and I really don't want to go through that again. And she was completely understanding, and she was fine with going down the verification process with Mercury, and she did verify herself, and then I went ahead and I sent it off to her. And once she got it, she approved it and we were good to go, and I got paid. So it took 3 tries to sell the bag, and I went through ups and downs, but I was finally able to sell it. So kind of after all of that, you guys now know like what I went through. The good things about Mercury that I don't really like about Poshmark. First thing, you're able to text the buyer. Second thing, they actually have customer service. I don't really like Poshmark customer service. I do prefer Mercury's customer service because you can actually text with them, or you can even call them. With Poshmark, you can only send them an email and wait days for them to reply. Not helpful at all, especially when things are going down and the buyer is being difficult. It's not helpful for you to wait a couple days for them to get back to you. With Mercury, it doesn't work that way. You're able to get an immediate answer right away. It takes a couple hours, but at least you're able to text them. So that's a second thing. And I also noticed with the fees on Mercury, they don't take as much fees as Poshmark. So you'll actually, if you sell the same item with the same amount of money on both apps, you're able to make a little bit more on Mercury versus Poshmark, because Poshmark takes more fees. So honestly, if anything, I would recommend you to sell your items on Mercury, as well as they do have their authentication service on Mercury. So you're able to post photos for $5 and get your item authenticated. Versus Poshmark, you have to go through the whole process of sending the item off to the headquarters, having them authenticated there, and having a second hand on your bag, touching your bag, damaging your bag, and then send it back to the buyer. And a lot of things can happen right in that middle process. So I would honestly recommend you to sell your items on Mercury. All of my experiences have been positive on Mercury. None of them have been positive on Poshmark. And I even sold the little pouch that the bag came with on Mercury, and it was such an easy process, easy transaction, and I was able to get my money right away. So if anything, I'd recommend you to do Mercury. But few little tips that I do want to kind of give you guys before I let you go is, first thing, keep everything that proves that your item is authenticated or authentic. Second thing, make sure to take as many photos as possible of your item. Even little corners, little things, anything that on your item you may think it's not really important, it will or it may become important later on in the transaction. So make sure to take photos of everything and post on the app, or post it wherever you can. There are some apps that you're able to edit your photos and have them collaged. So, because I know Mercury and Poshmark only allow you to post 12 photos. 12 photos is not important. It's not enough. So 12 photos are not enough. So what I've seen so many people do is that they collage multiple photos in one. So they can have the handles all together, or the canvas from the outside all together from all sides, as well as the bottom, so you're able to post as many photos. And then if your items get sold, make sure that you're comfortable with the buyer. If it's possible, text the buyer, have a conversation with them, and figure out if they're actually legit or not. Kind of test the water. And once you are comfortable, if you do want to send the bag off, what I would say is record the whole process of you showing the bag off to the camera, making sure that you are actually showing the bag with its flaws to prove that this is the bag that you're actually sending and you're actually selling. And then record yourself packaging the item as well as putting the label on the item, and then show the camera the label so they can see that you're actually sending the actual item. It's not like you're sending an empty box. And then also record yourself dropping it off at the carrier office. If you're really not able to do so, or you're not comfortable just recording yourself and carrying the box and going in to drop it off, you can always ask for a receipt that has the weight of the package. Because if you're able to tell on the receipt that the package weighs 6 pounds and the buyer gets the package and says, oh, I got an empty box, you're able to show the receipt and say, I dropped it and it was 6 pounds. There's no way a box is going to weigh that much if it was empty, to cover yourself that way. And make sure to get a receipt. Get a receipt, please. It needs to have your tracking information. It needs to have something to actually prove that you dropped that item off. Because if the item gets lost, the first thing they will ask you for is, did you actually drop it off? That way you're actually able to give them proof. So just in case, you're able to get your money back. And the app will be able to just cover that for you. And once the buyer gets it, I will say, it's not necessary, but I would personally do so, is text them, let them know that the package has been delivered, please go get it. Because sometimes they will leave it off at their front door and someone can take it. You want to make sure that the buyer gets the item as soon as possible, so no one else takes it. And that's what I did with my third sale, and she was able to get it right away and it was fine. So just try and make sure to be vigilant throughout the whole process, because there are so many things can go wrong and it can make you lose a lot of money. But yeah, other than that, I think that kind of covers everything about what I kind of wanted to talk with you guys about. But just be careful. There's a lot of scammers out there, and I would hate for you guys to lose your money or lose your items just because of one simple mistake that you or the app or someone else did. So just be mindful of everything that you're doing, and if you're not comfortable, if you feel like the buyer isn't someone that is worthy, don't do it. It's not worth it. You're gonna end up getting into a lot of stress, and it's just not worth it. So, but other than that, let me know, guys, if you have any questions or comments. Drop them down below. I will make sure to get back to you on that, and trying to help as many of you guys as possible. But other than that, I will let you guys go, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.